from February 28th, when they told me that I had, something in my lungs and liver, I never once, like, in French, it's called boudin. In Cajun, it's called being, in your feelings. I never once went, oh, poor, pitiful me. I just went straight to kill mode. How do I attack this? And I never slowed down. And even my wife goes, you don't blink, you don't cry, you don't get upset, you never cried about it, you just go. I said, that's all I know. I said, it's in my DNA just to go forward. I don't think I just if I think about anything else, it's going backwards. I was like, I'm going to kill this shit really fast. And um, my mistake was listening to my oncologist. And when I was doing a lot of stuff on my own, and she said, "Oh, that's all bullshit," and she said, "Just throw it away." And I backed off. And this is MD Anderson's supposedly the best melanoma oncologist they have. And went through immunotherapy, and it wasn't working after two. She kind of gave up on that after two treatments. And then she kind of appeased me, oh, we'll do chemo. You got a 20% chance to survive. You got 4 to 6 weeks to live. You need to go and make peace with your family and um, and get um, with make sure my will's in place and make sure and call hospice. I mean, I've went through cancer with my father, and then um, my father-in-law, and then Alzheimer's with my both my mom and stepmom, and I've had to use hospice. That's your last resort. That's like, all right, you're dead. And I just looked at her like she was insane. It's like, what? When she told me that, I was like, what are you talking about? I said, do I look dead? And she's like, Kurt, I don't know what else to do. Basically, she goes, I give up. And I can't, because my wife's in the medical field. She's an RN. So she always kind of looks at the medical side. And I don't have that trust in the medical side. And she has trust in it. And I was like, you quit. And in my DNA, there is no such thing as I don't even know how to quit. I wouldn't know how to quit if someone said, "Hey, you got to quit." I was like, I don't. That's foreign to me. So I walked out of there. Actually, I kind of when she told me that, I kind of did the Shamika thing in my head. I was like, "You don't know me," shaking my head, and she was like right in my face, and I actually made my. It was in my head, but I made myself laugh. So I laughed in her face, and she just looked at me and like I was insane. And I just got up and walked out. And my wife's like, "What's wrong?" I said, "Nothing." I said, "I'm not listening to her." I said, if I listen to her, then, then I am going to die. She wants me to go curl up at home and die. I said, that ain't happening. And so I went back to all the stuff. I mean, I probably read 6 or 7 different oncology books and cancer survivor books and all the stuff that they've done. Talked to a couple of oncologists who had cancer and how they approached it, and they approached it completely different. Like, MD Anderson is a research hospital. We're going to give you drugs. I think the oncologists make money off of prescribing drugs. They get a kickback. So if the drugs don't work, we prescribe different drugs. Those don't work, we prescribe different drugs. Okay, that doesn't work. You're going to die. And so, I mean, I've got a whole host of things that I do, from hyperbaric chambers to red light therapy, saunas, um, um, doing a lot of different fastings, different times of the month, um, vitamin C IVs after chemo, fasting before, during, and after chemo, and then ivermectin, methylene blue, soursop, um, um, a lot of different mushroom combinations, a ton of different of anti-inflammatories, or all natural anti-inflammatories, plus getting on a pretty much, which I don't know how vegetarians do it. I'd be the angriest human being on the planet if I was just had to be a vegetarian my whole life. But going to just whole foods, I mean, like whole vegetables, everything raw, juices, fruits. Only my protein comes um, from soy, and then I'll probably have two, um, 4-ounce pieces of either fish or chicken, once a week. And, I went from 190, I'm 146 now,
Ooh.
oh yeah, it dropped, and that's at my weakest point. But then I finally was like, you know what? Um, I knew I had to move. I knew just that the key to surviving was to move. I knew, and in my head, the key to surviving was keeping my legs strong. If I keep my legs strong, I can move better. So I just gutted it out. I mean, I couldn't walk literally 15 yards. My breathing was so labored because I have, lung and liver, tumors, and the one of my lungs was just I would breathe like this, like all day. Like that's how I breathe. I could never get air in my lungs, so I could only go about 15 yards. And I have to sit down, and then I work my way up. In training Thursday and Friday each day, I did over 5 miles of movement just in training our team.
Oh yeah.
And so then I started getting, having like points. Okay, if I get to this in my neighborhood, I get to this house. Okay, I get to this park. Okay, I just kept moving it back. Get to this stop sign, kept moving it backwards, and then I said, you know what? That started with a weighted vest. Just a 10-pound weighted vest. Kind of rucking to keep my to stabilize my whole upper body to make it work harder. In movement, and then I just grabbed that 40-pound sandbag one day and just walked around the cul-de-sac, and it didn't even bother me at all. Threw it down. My wife used to walk behind me thinking I was going to fall all the time because I was so weak. And she's like, "Man, you're not even breathing hard." And then a week later, I hit 205 for those quarters. But the day she told me to go home and die, I couldn't do the bar 3 times, on a full squat. Like the third rep, I had to throw the bar into the rack. And that was 8 weeks later, I hit 205. And I just, no matter how bad I feel, I just go, you know what? It's either you lay down or you get up and go, and it's either you die or you move this way. So I've been concentrating on just keeping my weight, keeping my legs really strong. Just started kind of jogging a little bit, which I've lost all my motor coordination. So, I mean, all 30 years of me doing every drill known to man every single day with our athletes, because that's how I teach. I go on the field, I got cleats on, teach, and just to go to jog, I thought I was gonna fall flat on my face. My brain was like, okay, had to tell my feet what to do. And I was just like, this is, I got so mad. I was like, I get so frustrated at what little, like I just got to bench 95 pounds for a double yesterday. And I mean, literally, I couldn't do 55 for three, because I'd lost so much weight and so much muscle mass. And so 95 I did three or four sets of doubles with it. Did it pretty easy. But I was like really happy with that because just to put a decent sized plate on the bar besides a 2.5 and a 5, which is like super depressing compared to what I was always a four, no matter how old I was, I could squat 400, no matter what, even at 60, I could still run fast. I could still clean, I could still snatch. And to be able to like, okay, I look at the bar and the bar intimidates me. Or I look at a staircase and I look at a staircase going, how bad do you really want to go up that staircase? Because it's just murder, So, it's been for me, it's been more mental than physical. Just okay, attack it. Don't get frustrated. Don't get mad. I look in I took a picture of myself and I thought, right after she told me that I wasn't going to live, and I looked like ET because my liver, my stomach was so distended because my liver wasn't draining, and then my arms were so skinny, so I had that gut with like these long, skinny arms. And I was like, I looked at my wife. I was like, I look like ET over here. This is bullshit. She's like, you'll get it back, and I'm like, I won't get it back fast enough.
I mean, the question that
I mean, the
everybody's
question that
might be
everybody
asking
might be
is
asking
how, like
is,
you said,
like you
February,
said,
how,
February,
when,
how,
fill
when,
everybody in on
fill
that.
everybody in on that.
Well, I tore my meniscus on my right knee, both of them, tore one in half, and the other one frayed it. Initially, probably in jujitsu, I hyperextended it 3 times in a row. And then with me just teaching, because I'm very aggressive when I teach, all the plyometrics. I mean, I demonstrate everything. I do so many reps a day, and my knee kept getting worse and worse. And that was in May. And then so it got to the point where I was like, man, I can't even decelerate. It hurts like hell. I'm jumping and landing on one leg when I'm teaching. So I go to our ortho, and man, he says, Kurt, man, your knee is stable as hell. I don't think there's no, and there was no swelling in it. I say, Doc, man, this thing really hurts. And I said, I got a pretty high pain tolerance. And so I go all the way through June, crippled. Then like and then in July, I was like, Doc, man, you got MRI this thing. There's something wrong with it. And so he goes, let me PRP it and put that Flexerol gel in it. And that to me made it worse. It hurt even worse after that. So then finally I said, look, man, just cut it open, and go find what's wrong with it. He gets in there. He's like, okay, it's torn. And so I'm whatever symptoms I had, which was like fatigue, a lot of fatigue, um, some like when you have liver issues, you'll burp a lot and you have a little bit of stomach pain. And I was running these low grade fevers every night, but like a dumbass, I just kept equating it to my knee, and I'm like, all this pain in my knee. And so I go through the whole summer, and the coach Fritz goes, hey, Kurt, just get through camp before you have surgery. So I've already gone through 2 months of being crippled. So I said, okay, I'll go through a month. I get through camp, and he goes, look, just make it to the bye week. And I was like, I'm about to cut my leg. I'm about to gnaw my leg off, at the top of my knee right now. And so I said, okay, I'm thinking of bye weeks like week 2 or 3. Well, it's the middle of October. So I'm like, so I go all the way to middle of October, just crippled. And then finally I had surgery in October. And so last couple of games, like I'm on crutches, big brace. And I mean, I'm still, because I'm on crutches and I'm rehab, I'm still equating anything wrong with my body with my knee. So I go to camp. I'm training our pro day guys, and man, I was like, I endorsed probably like 200 yards from our weight room, and I was just like miserable walking there. I was like, man, I'd get there and just sit in a chair, just wore out, and every day it got worse and worse. But then I spoke for sleeve at the University of Kansas clinic, and my presentation was kind of physical because it's all about going all the way through pre-contact to contact drills, and I was actually tackling people, and I was like, I think I'm going to die. I'm up here. I'm trying not to look like I'm hurting, and then the whole weekend, going to eat dinner with the coaches and all. Man, I was just hurting really bad, like my joints, my whole body hurt. I was running fevers. I get home. My son picks me up at the airport. I said, man, just get me home. Just get me home. I don't know what's wrong with me. So I just get in a hot tub, like 5 different times during the night up to my neck. I'm talking about straight hot water, no cold water at all. Just trying to kill the pain. And so I go to work that Monday, that Tuesday. And then Thursday, I was like, you know what? I don't care. I'm lifting today. I just hadn't lifted all week. So I was warming up on snatch, and I have my 7th rib on my left side. About every couple of years, snatching it'll dislocate, and I dislocated my rib, and so I was like, and so usually I just pop it back in. I kept trying to pop it; it wouldn't pop back in. So I go to our PT. I said, "Sam, pop my rib back in," and he hits it, and I went, "No, I didn't go back in." He hits it again. I said, "Yeah, well, you just broke my rib," and he's like, "What?" I said, I've had broken ribs before. You just snapped my rib. And he's like, oh my God, no. And I was like, it's all good, man. I'm hurting so bad anyway. I don't even care. I hurt so bad everywhere else. I could care less that my rib was broken. So I had to go. It was our last OTA before spring ball. So I go out there. I got a brace on one leg. I'm holding my rib on the other side, and I'm warming the team up, running up and down the field, you're trying to yell and breathe at the same time. And Fritz goes, "Why are you holding your side?" I said, "I think I broke my rib." He goes, "Jeez, man, you're always killing yourself." He goes, "What am I gonna do with you?" I said, "I don't know. I'm good." And so that was on a Thursday. So we lifted the next day, And then right after that, I went to get an X-ray to make sure, I didn't puncture a lung or whatever. With ortho, set it up, and I drive home, and right when I pull up my driveway, my ortho FaceTimes me. Man, he's like gray, like I can see. I was like, dude, this doesn't look good, and I'm laughing. And I said, how bad can a broken rib be? And he goes, Kurt, you got a tumor on your lung, and you got some metastasized tumors on your liver. Yeah, I need you to turn around and go back to the hospital and get some better imaging. So I walk inside, and I just went because I told him, I said, okay, right off the bat, I said, MD Anderson, how fast can I get in? Do I need to go through uh, my own personal physician to start the everything else? And he's like, yeah, like so. So I called Dr. Lee. We started getting everything rolling. I told him to call MD Anderson. I was getting things rolling like that second. I didn't blink at all. And then I had to go tell my wife. She was inside. It was, and she was just kind of catatonic when I told her. And she just didn't move. And I was like, look, get in the truck. I have to go back to the hospital. She did. I said, look, get in the truck. And she finally got up, and she was just like mentally just not there. And I'm in like overdrive. And I mean, you're drilling like out the roof, and get all that done. And so I kept it a secret for really about a month. And then I just got so tired of, I was losing weight so fast. I was telling like my athletes, I'm training for a marathon. I'm running 10 miles a day. Just so, and they're like, oh, okay. And, then I just got to the point where I was like, all right, I'm just going to tell the team. And tell the team, tell the coaches. The Coach Fritz knew, my family knew, and and medical staff knew, and that was it. And I just kind of, rolled and started rolling from that point on.
Hearing that story, it doesn't sound like anything else that you would do. Like that's the way that you would attack it.
The way that you would attack it.
Oh, it only happened to me. Why not break a rib? Why not have knee surgery? Why not just keep your, it's just, it was a lot of why nots. And the weirdest thing is you can actually leave this in my presentation. I wanted to make a point at the beginning. Like, look, you don't have to do what I'm telling you. This is what I do. I'm not saying you need to go do this. You don't need. I'm saying this is what I do in my program. I said I'm kind of like that old guy in an old folks home that's running around, knows he's going to die soon, so he's running around grabbing chicks. Hey baby, so he's just like, because he does like, hey, what are you going to do to me? I'm going to die soon. And that was part of my speech. So it's kind of like that's when I started feeling the worst. And so it's kind of like an omen that was part of my speech. And then this happens. So I was like, yeah, only me. It's only this stuff's going to happen to me. Only these stories happen to me,
I think I know the answer to this question, but at any point, have you gone through the process of like, oh, could this have gotten better? Could have been easier if I did get surgery and realize it sooner? Have you gone through that process?
No, not at all.
Didn't think so.
No, I just went forward. I'm always moving, and even like a pastor, one of my players, Anthony Ganji, super religious kid, awesome walk-on kid, earned a scholarship, a little receiver. He sent his pastor to come talk to me in my office, and he goes, what do you think you're gonna do? You think you're gonna go to heaven? I said, look, man. I said, here's how I look at it. I said, if I attack this as hard as I can, and I'm disciplined in everything I do, and I have faith, and God has favor on me, I win. If I attack this as hard as I can, I'm disciplined, and I have faith, and He decides I'm going another direction, I win.
Amen.
I said I have that crazy mentality of like I kind of want I even told all my players this. I mean, don't feel sorry. If you feel sorry for me, I won't punch you in the throat because that's not who I am. And I said, I kind of want to see what's on the other side. I said, I'm not suicidal, but it intrigues me to what else is there, And I said, so it's not that it's false bravado. I just don't fear death. I mean, I probably should have died 100 times before this, and, so someone asked me something. I said, well, look, man, I'm like, I'm riding on God's back right now, like a jockey at the Kentucky Derby.
That's
You know,
amazing. That's amazing.
I'm rolling, man.
You kind of sound
I'm
like
trying to
Paul,
win it.
and
Yeah,
said
I'm trying
like
to win the.
life, to live is to Christ, but to die is as well.
Yeah, yeah. So it doesn't. I'm good either way. You know, it kind of drives my wife crazy because she thinks I'm suicidal. So I'm not suicidal. It's just the way I'm thinking. You need to live forever for your grandkids and all this stuff. I'm like, look, if I go, I go.
Yeah, you
You
did
know,
get to
if
see
I
the
don't,
birth
I
of
don't.
of grandkids. Like that's got to be
Yeah,
huge.
like my grandson, like that. That was kind of like my milestone. Was like first was I married all three of my kids. I'm ordained. I married all three of my children, and was like the first milestone was to get through my youngest, my son's wedding, and marry him. Then when that was over, it was like, okay, my middle daughter is having the first grandson. It's all girls in my family. Now I gotta live to that point. Then it was like, okay, and so we were talking about this, my wife and I, and she said, "What are you living for now?" I said, "Spite." And she said, "What do you mean spite?" Spite my oncologist, and I'm gonna throw it in her face, that I'm that she was wrong. So that's what I'm living for now.
Next question that people are probably wondering is, how is it like? So you're trending in this positive direction. Like, where's the fight going? What's happening now?
It's really weird because it's like on top of all, having lung and liver cancer, I have a rare genetic disorder, blood disorder, where my blood is impervious to, which they found out later, to immunotherapy and to a certain extent chemotherapy. It just kind of throws the middle finger to it, says, "Yeah, you're not doing anything to me." And so I had to get on this drug to um, alleviate that, and and it's like insurance doesn't cover it. It's like $16,000 a month for two little pills each day. Yeah, and so, but I started feeling better. Like I made that turnaround way before I got on that drug. Like once I started doing my own thing and hitting because when you get in a hyperbaric chamber, it's pushing so much oxygen into your blood. Well, uh, cancer can't live in an oxygen rich situation. Cancer can't live in an alkaline situation. So I have an alkaline dispenser. I drink a ton of alkaline water. I hit the hyperbaric chamber twice a week. I've got a lymphatic masseuse because I have one tumor that's blocking uh, um, one of my drains, and so he flushes it out. Because that's why I was so distended, and so I'm not even distended anymore. So my liver is functioning, like my bilirubin. That's basically your blood test liver function. It was sky high. So if you looked down on a chart, it went like this down and then like this when she told me I was going to die. Then ever since I started doing my own thing, it's done. It's just straight down. I'm below normal on it. Yes, like baseline normal, and then all my other blood markers are either at normal or just above normal.
Bro.
So, yeah. So between what I'm doing and I guess God not minding me being a jockey on his back, I think it's all working, man.
All right. So how's training been?
Do what?
How's training the football team?
Oh, really good. I mean, it's they have no excuses now because I'll throw the cancer card up in a heartbeat. I'll throw a cancer card to get what I need, what I want. Sorinex is doing our weight room. I told Bert, I said, "Look, man, this better be personal. I want this personal to your company. It better be done everything exactly perfect and right. And you know what? I want a lot of free stuff because I might not be here another day or two. So I just throw that up all the time.
Yeah, I've seen tons of the videos. The guys look like they're training hard.
Yeah, I mean everybody complains about the portal and NIL, and how do you build a team? And it's like, look, man, you build it just like you always build anything else, and it's disciplined effort. You give them no quarter. Our guys thrive. Like if I back off of them, they get aggravated with me. And so in training, you know, because they'll see me struggle. They'll see me struggle some days. Like Friday, it got really hot on the turf field in the stadium, and so I was hurting the last group, and I'm like, look, man, and a couple of things they weren't giving the effort that I thought they should, and I was like, look, man, I said, I'm out here giving you everything I've got. I can barely stand up, and so they can't they can't look at me and go, oh, I'm gonna half-ass it. So it's I think it's good for them to understand that everybody's on a time limit. That everybody's going to time out. Death is undefeated, and the way I look at it, but I will take it to three overtimes. And you're not going to beat it, but at the same time, everyone's running out of time.
Yeah,
and so that's kind of how I approach it with them, and they respond every time.
Yeah, and poof, to hear your coach say that, to know that, that'll definitely dial them in.
Oh, I mean, because I got such a dark sense of humor. It's like 100. It really is 100 yards from our locker room to the weight room, and so some guys are like, I want them 10 minutes early, so we can, because we're always running out of time. Some guys were just walking, and I was like, hey, I'm going to be dead before y'all get down here, and they just take off running. And then my assistant strength coach, he interviewed for the Colorado job and didn't get the job. So we're sitting in the office, my whole staff, and I turned around and said, hey, man, I said, just hang in there. Another couple of weeks, you might be the head guy here. And they got scared. They didn't even know what to say. I thought it was funny, and then in a team meeting, Coach Chris will go through academics, equipment, med, and I'm last. And he's like, Coach Hester, say what I had to say. And I said, Coach, I got 10 cups of coffee in me, 2 monsters. If I die today, you're not going to know for another 2 weeks. And he tried not to laugh because he's pretty stoic. And my staff was like, dude, he tried not to laugh and he couldn't help himself. And he just started busting out laughing. He goes, only you would say something like that in a team meeting, about death. And I'm like, well, it's if you don't, I look at it as it's kind of funny to me, and I look at it almost as to a pretty high extent as a blessing because of what it's teaching my family, what it's teaching the athletes. What I look at it as like it's the ultimate fight. It's like, okay, you just gave me the ultimate fight. Winner take all, gladiator in the ring, win or die. And that is like right up my alley of like, I'm born in the wrong century, believe me, completely the wrong century. And so for me, it's awesome. It's like I get up and have to fight really hard every day. And I like the fight, especially when I'm feeling at my worst. And then I have to make myself do all the things that I need to get done. And then when I'm done with a day, I'm like, okay, I just won. I just won that battle that day. So for me, it's just, it's almost fun. Yeah, which is kind of insane to say.
How about any advice to strength coaches that are listening right now?
And which direction?
You take it wherever you want.
Well, I think especially young strength coaches, they have like this badge of honor of staying, and a lot of head strength coaches are idiots about this. If football's here, we're here. Bullshit. If you got your job done, if your job is done, go home. Go home. There's no reason to sit there in a weight room because football. Look, they gotta watch film. That's their job. We did our job. We're done. I want you to come back tomorrow fresh and ready to roll. It's not a badge of honor to sit around for 3 extra hours doing absolutely nothing because some dumbass head strength coach is making you stay there. And the fact that that you have limited time, and you better find ways to figure out ways to spend more time with your family and with your kids because that time is limited. I think in our profession, in football in general, we get buried, and burnout. I mean, how many guys are 61 years old in this field? I think there's 4 of us. I think it's me, Marati, Glass, Batson, That might be it.
And Batson's on his way out.
Schmidt.
Yeah.
I think 5 of us, and because, you get burnout from stupidity from head strength coaches or head football coaches just want you to grind for no reason. If your job is done and you do a great job, go home and spend the rest of the time with your family. If we're done at 2, we're going home at 2. I don't care what anybody thinks. If we're done at 3, we're done at 3. I'm not staying to 8 for no reason. I'm going home to see my family. I'm going home and do some stuff that I want to do. So it's just, this badge of honor of being like, hard, this hard ass that a lot of, because it's kind of like a fraternity. It was done to coaches so that they're going to do it to their guys.
Yep.
So if I get hazed in my fraternity, then I'm going to haze everybody else, and I always said when I became a head guy, that wasn't going to be me. And you know what? Every single coach that's ever coached with me will say, I never had so much fun, in strength and conditioning anywhere else. Anywhere else has been miserable because everybody tries to make it miserable. Where I try to make it, I like to have fun. I think our profession is a great profession, but I think we have too many morons that make it a bad profession because they're morons.
Yeah, I agree.
And
I agree.
On the guise of, oh, I'm a Billy Badass. Shut up, man. You probably never got in a fight in your life, So, it really annoys me.
What about advice? Life? You talked about the don't stay forever. What would you say? Exercise selection, things along in the weight room stuff to help guide these guys.
I mean, for me, it's everything is speed. I've always speed first. I've always been a speed first guy, and a lot of the strength our guys have is a byproduct of the speed. So, this past week, Friday, we had, I don't know, something like over 600-pound squatters. I don't even know how many, 500. I mean, even with their DBs and receivers and backs, and that not just linemen. I mean, we probably had 40 guys over 500. But I don't really write cycles to get them super strong. Everything I'm writing in the weight room is geared to making them fast on the field. And then it just happens the fact that when we go to max out, they're like, we had guys hit 50, 60, 70 pounds over their max. And we haven't hit anything over 85% the entire summer.
Think it's because they're just fresh or what?
We cycled, we super compensated over the 4th of July, so their legs were fresh. But I was super compensating them mostly because I wanted to run fast on Thursday. So I treated the week like a track meet because I went on, because I want some fast GPS times. And the thing is, I don't cook the books. There's so many guys out there that cook the book. Oh, we had 20 guys that ran over 22 miles an hour. And no, you didn't. Especially when you're at a school that hasn't won a game in 30 years. So I know you don't have the genetics to do that. I don't cook the books on our lifts. They are what they are. I want to see what we're doing and see if what we're doing works. So I'm not going to cook the books on GPS. I'm not going to cook the books on our lifts. They are what they are. And I'm not scared to go and in front of my head coach if this guy didn't make any improvements and say, you know what, it's my fault. I should have done this and this with him. I'm not scared to validate what I do. And most strength coaches they're just going to add numbers just so they don't have to list, even if their guys didn't get any better, even if they got weaker, they're just going to cook the books so it looks good. I won't do that because I want to see if what we're doing is working and if we have to manipulate things and change things. We had, I think 8 or 9 guys hit 22, a lot of 21s and a lot of 20s. I was happy with that. That means, what we were doing was working. But there were like legit, and if we have any anomalies, we pull it out. So if a guy is like consistently running a 21.2, then all of a sudden he hits a 22.8. probably didn't make it. Probably, something's not right with catapult's not perfect. So we throw it out. We just go on as average, then we just put down as average.
Yeah.
So, Coach Chris asked me about an athlete. He said, "Hey, he ran 22A." I said, "No, he didn't." I watched him run, and it wasn't a 22.8. I'm telling you, from a visual standpoint, it wasn't a 22.8. And I've got good eyes over almost 30 years of coaching. I know what speed looks like. His rep wasn't it.
You said when I write it. Have you noticed it's been more difficult for you to try to write periodize? Has it been difficult or no? Just because your body has stabilized and you're doing so well health-wise?
No, I think coaches they start whining. Well, I don't have enough time, and I don't have enough days. I write for what we have. It is what it is. It's kind of like the freaking the NIL and the portal. You deal with it. So I mean, we're getting less and less time training. I just ride around it, and the way we manipulate things on the run. So if we see something in the cycle that is not working, or that we need to facilitate moving forward in the cycle, we do it on the run. Whereas most coaches would just do exactly what they wrote. We're constantly looking and evaluating what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. And if we have to manipulate it on looking at their fatigue level, looking at what they look like ground contact time on the field, we just manipulate it, that week so that we keep moving forward. And most coaches won't do that. It's like the workout's the workout. If they don't perform, it's their fault. No, it's our fault because we weren't looking at the right things. So that's and that's one thing I've been teaching our coaches, use your eyes, take notes, and we'll manipulate whether in the weight room or on the field.
I think you just gave so many strength coaches a reality check.
I don't know. It's just how I've done things my whole life, and so
yeah. But they probably thought you were just fighting for your life. You're not really. No, you're telling them you're actively yeah.
No, the thing is, when I go to work, it is the only time where I don't think about cancer. I'm so single-minded, focused on them. It's therapy for me. It is instead of looking at the same four walls in my house, I got 112 guys who are my therapists all day long. And, I told them, I said, look, man, when I'm hurting bad, I said, walk up to me, whisper my ear, don't be a C, if you know what C means. And I give y'all permission to say that in my ear and say, are you going to let this break you? I said, but when I'm healthy and you come and put that in my ear, I'm going to punch you in the throat because I'm healthy now. But I will give you the license to walk up and get in my ear and get in my ass when you see me struggling, because I will get, because when you do that, I'm like, I go to another, I get so, I go to another level. I don't care how bad I feel. I'm not, I'm going, I am not going to fold.
That's absolutely incredible.
But all this is the one thing is I'm reality. I'm a reality guy. I say whatever's on top of my head. I mean what I say, and I'm not going to back down from what I say. And that's what I think my athletes, why they respect me, is the fact that I don't lie. I am a reality-based guy, and they're like, man, you're just real. You're just real all day long. And I will tell them, I'm not scared to be vulnerable and tell them what's going on in my life, what's going on with the cancer. I told them what was going on with the oncologists, and I visually showed them the stack of books that I read, because I'm trying to get them to understand that in order to succeed in life, you have to learn to like to read. You don't have to love it, but you have to learn to, if you can't pick up a book, you're never going to be successful in life. And I showed them the stack of books, and so I've read every one of these books, and I've come up with my own protocol to beat this cancer. And then I said, on top of that, I grabbed the Bible and I said, I've read this cover to cover, and I lean on this, on top of what I'm doing. I have faith in what's between this cover to cover. And I said, so it's a win for me. So it was visual to them, and they were like, and then I was telling them about what I said to the oncologist, because I told her to go fuck herself, whenever she told me to die. And I said that to them. I said, look, I told her, and they were like, hell yeah, coach. Don't listen to her, So, it's, yeah. Again, I said, I kind of like this journey. I'm writing my second book. Like Ryan Grubbs convinced me to start, dude, just start writing it from January on. And, just like through strength and conditioning, you fighting through cancer, what's, family wise, through football, through the whole football season. So I'm almost caught up to today. I've started in January, like I said before, with fatigue and all that stuff.
Wow. Yeah, I'll be buying that book.
So I think I'm gonna call it Rants of a Tumor Infested Strength and Conditioning Madman.
Last question I'll ask you before you let you respect the rest of the day. We were talking about a vision webinar, and we're just going to do it in the last 10 minutes. How did you learn about it? What makes it so important? And why do you do it really well?
When I was at Louisiana Tech, my two corners, who are NFL corners, Amik Robertson and L'Jarius Sneed, we dropped, I think, 16, not them, but the whole DB room, dropped 16 interceptions that year. And I was like, man, I always think out of the box. How can I help our athletes get better? Not just lifting wise, everything else, martial arts, vision, motivation, just breathing, anything that's different. And so I just started researching and reading different books as usual, bought every book I could find, and then got on a website with this optometrist from Maryland who trains some of the best hitters in the world, like Canseco and McGuire and Gwynn. And when I got on the website, the cover guy on the website was an athlete that I trained since he was 13 years old. He was an All-American at LSU and played for the Padres. He was in the show. And so I called him. I said, dude, is this guy, how good is he? He goes, well, I'd have never made it out of AAA if it wasn't for this guy. So he got me in touch with him, and I told him all the stuff that I was wanting to do. And we kind of put together, a vision program. But it's not just, coaches keep asking me about it, but it's not just, you have to really learn cognition, learn, eye dominance. You have to learn a lot of stuff, from an optometry book to implement it. They think it's just like doing a drill. Like after I started doing my stuff, I saw one coach he just had like the glass to his office and had some lines. He goes, look, we're doing vision work. We're trying to expand peripheral vision. I'm like, dude, it's, just because I'm doing something, now you're going to throw something in there to say, hey, we have a vision program, which no, dumbass. Why don't you freaking buy a whole bunch of books and why don't you read up on it? And a lot of, so people will ask me questions, but they want the cliff notes. Look, man, I'm not going to sit here on Twitter and write out, everything that I'm doing on little characters, with, not having enough characters to write anything, and tell you how to implement a program. Why don't you get off your lazy ass, go buy a whole bunch of books, get on some websites, read and educate yourself. And I offended like one guy, oh, excuse me. I said, no, man, excuse you, asshole, because you're a lazy bitch. Don't throw it on me,
You're not wrong. You're 100% right. You're 100% right.
My job is not to educate you.
No, it's educate yourself to be able to take care of your athletes.
Yes. Bottom line.
Last couple of minutes here. What's the last thing you want to leave strength coaches with?
Man, don't take. They've got too many guys that take themselves so seriously. That their logo is like a ingrained tattoo, and they walk around, like I'm Power 5 or Power 4, blah blah blah. And they especially in the conferences, I just want to like go in there and Columbine the conferences, just take my AR and just wipe out the whole, also the whole strength staff and start completely over, because it's just like the arrogance, the false bravado, the bullshit. It's like, dude, relax. Just relax.
Yeah, relax.
You're not as bad as you think you are, and you're not as good as you think you are. Just like I'm not as good as I think I am. I'm not. I'm always trying to get better, and I I will die as a strength coach, always trying to get better. But I don't take myself serious either. I like to have fun.
Amen. There's no better spot to leave this. Keep fighting, Uncle Kurt.
Keep fighting, Uncle Kurt.
All right, brother. I gotta go do it. I got a 2-hour lymphatic massage starting right now.